What's up, guys? Darkstar here. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not really going to review these tracks. These tracks are all my own, and it's rare that I get to put up a video of just one of my tracks on the channel. I try to usually do reviews of other people's stuff, but every now and then I really want to make a video of my own stuff. So what I'm doing today is I'm giving you guys an introduction to Grand Prix tracks and Grand Prix racing. It's something new we're doing in the ORL for Season 3. We're having a Grand Prix series. We have 2 divisions, 18 drivers who want to drive on tracks like this. Now, you could call these road courses, you could call them raceways. Ultimately, now, our specifications for a Grand Prix track in the Outlaw Racing League is it has to be impossible to fall off the track and die. That just doesn't really simulate real live racing. Now, in Halo Reach, it's an exercise in futility to try to simulate real world racing. You have to let Halo Reach be Halo Reach, or you're really just not going to wind up having fun. So what we try to do is kind of get somewhere in between. But like I said, falling off the track and dying, unacceptable. I try to make it so that you can't fall off the track onto other sections of the track and have, in which case you're forced to go back to make up your checkpoint. Or on a track like this that has only 2 checkpoints, it's really easy to cheat. But these tracks are made for mature, disciplined drivers. These aren't the kind of tracks that you want to throw down when you've got a full lobby of randoms and silly people who are just going to troll and cheat and do nonsense. Because they're going to troll and cheat and do nonsense, which is going to totally screw up a Grand Prix style race. So these tracks are made for disciplined drivers who are accustomed to following a couple of rules. Like I said, falling off the track and dying, unacceptable. I try to keep the walls on the track to a minimum. When a driver goes too wide or too narrow on a turn, they're going to hit a wall, and they're going to spin around, and they're going to take out the 5 drivers behind them. And I try to keep that to a minimum, so that someone's bad driving doesn't penalize someone who's driving good behind them. These tracks are designed to produce really competitive races, and usually they do so. The better drivers wind up in front all the time. Right here you see Goldliner, 49er, and Simple Eric, 2 of the best drivers I know, killing this track. This track here, it's called Ladder Goat. Anyone who watches a crazy amount of YouTube knows that Ladder Goat is random. But this track is not random. It is built, obviously, on a grass mod. And this has what we call a voluntary starting gate. There's no wall. You're not hemmed in any way. You wait for an explosion to start the race. Kind of like a marathon race where a referee fires a pistol. In this case, we use fusion coils. Set off a nice boom to let the drivers know it's okay to go. And that gives you a fair start. You'll see in a lot of I've learned doing race videos that when players spawn on the track, the entire lobby almost never spawns at the same time. I've seen people spawn 5 or 6 seconds after the first person who spawns, which is, a horrible disadvantage, and it leads to a very unfair race. So not having a spawn and go race is another thing that we try to do with our Grand Prix races. They'll all be either started by the official or started by starting gate or voluntary starting gate. Now, when there's no starting gate or voluntary starting gate, what I like to do as an official in the race is I'll pull my mongoose in front of the pack at the starting line and then hop off that mongoose and get behind the drivers. When my mongoose disappears, when it respawns under me and it disappears on the track, the drivers know to go. That's a good reflex cue to start the race. It's turned out to work fairly well when we've done that in recent trials. So here again, Goldliner, 49er, Simple Eric out in front, and that's a new guy. Coil, something Coil. I can't say the first part of his name. I've tried a million times, so sorry, Coil, but you're gonna have to be known as Coil for here on out. He's looking to get into the league. He just got on our driver waiting list, so if somebody drops out, he's gonna take their place. He's eager to drive, and I'm looking forward to racing with him. Actually, he really tries to drive clean. He doesn't look to troll, and he will make room for you on the track, which is something I respect a lot. People who try to cut you off and block you out all the time kind of piss me off, Simple Eric. But yeah, anyway, so back to Grand Prix racing. Now we're going to be running the races with some different rules than we run in our regular Supercross, Motocross divisions or our mixed terrain divisions. We will be calling cautions under certain circumstances. It's going to take 2 drivers off the track and come to a complete stop in order to cause a caution. In the case of a caution, all the drivers will race to but not pass the finish line checkpoint, at which point the official will restart the race once people line up 3 wide in the order that they get to the checkpoint. Now, if a driver is found causing more than 3 cautions in a race, they'll be disqualified. So causing cautions is not going to be a benefit to people. It's going to be a hindrance, and hopefully we won't have to call them very often. We'll also call them in cases where there's a lot of lag in the game or the game goes to black screen. So yeah, this here is Pacific Raceway. Now this is modeled after Seattle International Raceways out in the northwest there, part of the old country in Washington State. Actually, I think it's in Oregon, not Washington State. I'm not 100% sure on that. Now, this isn't an exact replica. This track is totally flat, and the layout of the track is actually mirrored from the layout of the actual racetrack. I try to stay away from trying to reproduce actual racetracks perfectly. It's pretty much impossible to do on Reach, and it's really hard to do. So, unless you've been to the track and really have a good feel for the way the inclines are and the banking is on turns, you're probably not going to do a perfect replica of a real-life racetrack on Halo Reach. But this is a pretty fun race. This I kind of consider the prototype Grand Prix track. It's one of the first ones I ever made, and again, it's producing a very competitive race. Again, Simple Eric and Gold Liner out in front. That's me and Coyle in 3rd and 4th, and me and Coyle have been driving really clean this whole race. There were a couple times we could have cut each other off. Gold Liner and Eric not driving clean, and they pay the price. So now Coyle and me are 1st and 2nd, and we're killing it. So let that be a lesson to people who don't drive clean and don't make room for people. You're just letting the people behind you back into the race. But anyway, Grand Prix tracks, blah blah blah. Yakety, yakety, yakety. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about Grand Prix tracks. Could talk a little bit more about the rules we're using. Let's see, I talked about cautions. What else? Like I said about the starting gates, we won't be doing any spawn and go starts in the races. But Season 3 is going to be starting up in 2 weeks. We're doing our drivers' meetings this week, starting Thursday through Saturday. We'll have all the divisions doing their drivers' meetings, and then we'll start the division seasons the following weeks. Now, this is Laguna Seca Raceway. This is the only time I've tried to even come close to reproducing a real live racetrack. I've kind of scaled it down. The track is a pretty long track, and driving on a Mongoose that's top speed is I believe it's 70 miles an hour. It goes 95 kph. I believe that translates to 70 miles an hour in miles per hour speed. So the lap time is similar. The inclines are not quite as steep as they are on Laguna Seca because the Mongoose is more susceptible to slowing down big time when it's going up a hill. And I try to keep the race fast. That right there is called the Andretti Hairpin. This is one of my favorite tracks to race on. It's a difficult track. Our lap record right now is 49 seconds. Several drivers have gotten it, and it is not easy to do. And generally, I can't do it when I'm alone on the track, just doing practice laps. I need other drivers pressuring me, and generally, I can't do it when I've got the lead. I've got to be chasing someone. and that's usually the only time I pull off a 49-second lap. Now here's the turn known as the corkscrew. It is infamous. It is difficult. It doesn't play quite the same in this game as it does in real life. You know, in real life you have to slow down big time. You have to almost completely stop to get around that turn without catching air and winding up off the track. We found a way to pretty much go through that section without letting off the gas, but it's still an extremely difficult turn, and it's really hazardous if you fall off. I kind of designed it that way so that if you don't take the turn right, you wind up off the side, and you have a bit of a hard time getting back to the track. But you'll see the way these tracks are done. The track is slightly elevated above another surface. I wish I could just have grass on the sides of the track that would slow people down if they went off track. But lacking the ability to do that, you know, like even on the grass mods, the grass isn't really slower than the rest of the track, so it doesn't work that well. But having the track slightly elevated leaves a big bump when people try to get back on the track. So if they try to cut a corner, usually they'll wind up barrel rolling back into the track and wrecking out. So that's how I handle that kind of situation. You'll see, you know, the track is walled in. You can't fall off, but the walls are several feet off the track. So if a driver does go off, they don't go straight into a wall. They have a chance to get back on without losing a whole lot of time. Again, that's to provide more competitive races. You know, when people fall off the track and die, sometimes in a big lobby you get a lag. You get a lot of lag when you're trying to respawn. And I've seen people wait 40 seconds to respawn in a race, and that is just unacceptable. I mean, you know, you should be penalized for falling off the track, but 40 seconds, you know, that's a full lap on a lot of these tracks. It's a bit ridiculous. So there you have it, guys. That is my introduction to Grand Prix tracks and Grand Prix racing. You'll be seeing lots of race videos coming up once our season starts. I'll be managing one Grand Prix division and racing in the other. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Darkstar out. Peace.